What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining me on D's analysis. We're going to be looking at MSTR and Bitcoin. For the week, we closed at 289.87, and on the weekly, of course, in the same spot. On the monthly, we still have 12 days, but currently we are underneath the past month, the past month's low, which was at 292.65. So we're playing underneath there. And we actually got a weekly close underneath there. So that's definitely not the best sign. And of course, we closed underneath this prior week. So that's the lowest close that we've seen since pretty much over here, somewhere in this ballpark. So since around March. We'll see if the momentum continues on. It has been a very strong trend for some months now, since July. You can see this entire piece here is just a very, very strong move to the downside. We'll see if it has any kind of a slowing down to do, or if it's just picking up even more as we go. And when you take a fib from the top here to this bottom, so it's going to be anything after this candle, you can see that we ran up to the 382 and then just absolutely fell off a cliff, which goes to show that there's a lot of momentum to the downside, because we didn't even make it to the 0.5 to the 618, which is the magnet for price usually for a continuation. So typically we'd go to the 0.5, 618, but you need a lot of bullish momentum to actually push price back into this direction before falling down, which is at least a better sign, because there would be enough bulls to make it all the way up to the 618. But with here, you can see that there wasn't enough bullish momentum to make it past the 382. Really, we surpassed it for a short bit, and then we absolutely fell off, and now we're all the way back underneath it. So there's really nothing to do on the fib here, because we'd pull it here, but we don't have any data after this wick here. So the following weeks, we'll be able to pull some more fibs. After 2 or 3 weeks, we could see where price goes from here. The weekly SMAs are pretty much in the same spot. We have our 20 pushing down on our 50. We haven't actually had the cross just yet, but it will be coming up here soon. And the daily SMAs are practically in the same spot. Our 50 has fallen underneath our 200, which is a very bearish sign. We have seen that happen before, and when it does happen, you can see what the price action kind of looks like. It has been a while since we've actually seen that. The 50 falling underneath the 200 was back over here. Actually, we actually got the cross in January, but it was really off of this move, because these are lagging indicators. So as time has gone on, you can see that's where you got the cross, the 50, which is a pink, curling underneath the 200, which is the orange and green. And that was the result of it. And that momentum kind of carried on. And then vice versa, once you got the 50 pushing back above the 200 here on the daily, you can see there was a trend established, and then we've been just riding up ever since then. And now it looks like the momentum has begun to flip to the downside, at least temporarily. We'll see if it holds, or if this is just a short-term kind of thing. So here I am on the backtest portfolio visualizer. So you can see the results. We have Bitcoin versus MSTR, and you start off with $1. You're adding 500 a month. That's how I got these numbers. And when you compare them from January 2021 to September 2025, you can see what happens here. So Bitcoin is the sample portfolio, and you would have had 93,975, and MSTR you'd have 206. Even after that significant drawdown, you can see where you would be with MSTR. So that's just the beauty of DCA. Even with the downfall, you can still be up a solid amount. Yeah, so it's doing pretty solid. at the moment. We did make it up to 241, had a dip down to 160, and then sitting at 206 currently for this model. Now, that's just from 2021 until this point. MSTR has been outperforming. Now, when we take a step back further, of course, it's not really a fair comparison, but I'm just going to do it anyways because MSTR wasn't accumulating Bitcoin back in this time period. But if you wanted to just look to see what the numbers look like, Bitcoin is around 2 million and MSTR around 900,000. So it kind of gives you an idea of what has happened in the past. But like I said, it's more fair to, start around this December 2020 mark, around that time where they started accumulating Bitcoin. I believe it was December 2020. Up until now, MSTR has actually been outperforming even with this drawdown. Something to take note of and kind of keep you grounded. Now here on the weekly for Bitcoin, we have 4 hours left. We'll see where we close. We are at a major level right here. Like I've said before, we want to hold this level. We've pierced underneath it. We've fallen all the way down to 103, but we're now at around 109. If we close at 105, that's going to start to increase the odds of us pushing back up for a retest. If we were to hold that retest, now we're looking at potential lower levels. The next level would be around this target over here for Bitcoin, sitting at around 100 to around 98. If we got our weekly close there, that would start to increase odds. But of course, like I said before, we can close back above this structure and still fall underneath the structure. I'm just telling you what increases the odds and what's more likely to happen if we get certain scenarios. And to the upside, if we hold the structure at around 109, maybe 110, something like that, then it's going to kind of keep us in the same ballpark where we're trending above 109 to around 112, somewhere in this ballpark, before we find some kind of resistance and then maybe break up higher. So those are the kind of two scenarios that I can see playing out. One would be closing underneath, retesting, falling. This one would be holding, maybe chopping a little bit, finding support here, and now pushing back up to here, maybe finding a little bit of resistance before continuing higher. Overall, though, when you zoom out completely, it's really not that big of a deal. It's just another sideways time period for Bitcoin. We've seen it plenty of times before. Same thing has happened here where we've gone sideways and down. Here we went up, down. Here we're up, pretty much just sideways. We've pretty much been in the same spot since December 2024 in terms of price, because we've had these wicks here. So we've seen the price all the way back here and we're still there at this time period. On the weekly, we almost made it down to the 50, which was sitting at around 101.7. We made it down to 103.5. Found a little bit of support in confluence with the structure, and we pushed up a little bit higher. So we'll be keeping an eye out for that, and we'll see where things go from here. On the daily, we actually did close underneath the 200, and now we're back above it. If we push back underneath that, this could be a lot of resistance, and this could allow price to fall even further, because that's a major level that we want to be holding. Last time we were at the 200, when we broke above it, we started a pretty nice trend to the upside, and then the previous times that we've touched it, we found support, and then we ended up falling through for a little bit lower. By the time we touched it, it was around 182, and then we made it down to around 74 there. So the 200 is definitely a key player, which is the orange and green moving average. But you can see that we had some pretty large swings once we get above that area, and when we fall underneath it, it usually indicates some kind of major shift in momentum, but that doesn't always have to be the case though. So we'll be watching that. Tether dominance is pushed all the way back up once again to 5.25, finding resistance, and now we're back underneath this support here, support and resistance. We're holding this range. Ideally, we want to see a retest and a fall. I mean, we technically already got our retest, so we just want to see price fall down back to the structure, fall back through, and continue on down. The ascending triangle that we were speaking of ended up playing out and absolutely catapulting, bringing weakness to Bitcoin. And with these major spikes, that's why we ended up seeing Bitcoin, drop all the way down to 103. But we'll see if this can start to die out, maybe start to create a little topping pattern, and we roll over and start to see some momentum for Bitcoin. We are approaching the, that final run up that we typically see every 4 years in the Bitcoin cycles, 2021, 2020, or 2017, 2021, and 2025. Q4, which we are in now. That's ideally supposed to be the point where we see our blow off top and the cycle top. Right now, it doesn't look like we're seeing that at the moment, but Bitcoin moves quickly when it catches momentum, so anything can happen. But be aware of that we are in that time period. We'll see if something changes and we actually get an extended cycle and we push out to 2026 or something like that. Maybe something a little bit different. Every cycle doesn't have to be the same, so always remember that. Be open to different ideas. And honestly, if you DCA to Bitcoin over the next 5 years, this price action doesn't really matter, and you're going to be much higher than you are today. Not financial advice. So make sure you drop a like and subscribe. Let me know what you think in the comment section, and I'll see you guys in the next one.